A slightly different video than normal. A couple of you have asked about how I weld and my process and, you know, the sort of stretching I do and the emotional preparation I go through before I fire up this mighty beast. Now, before any welding takes place, there has to be a good base. And that good base is the welding cart. And we'll go through that right now. Now, if any of you do want a professional grade cart like this, you do have to get full sponsorship from the cart supplier. Now, in many cases that is a supermarket. Now, obviously, because I'm saying publicly that I have a supermarket's trolley in my garage cut to pieces, I did get full sponsorship, although it was a verbal sponsorship, so can't be proven. So once I had attained my sponsored cart, it was a case of nibbling down slowly and carefully till basically everything fit. It took about 5 minutes and it wasn't that big a job. When you're cutting down your cart, don't throw anything away because a lot of repurposing will happen. And one of the main repurposed rods was this one at the front, because you have to have a sturdy base, as in life. Another key design feature of this particular vehicle is the hefty design of rear end that can really stand up to some abuse. There will be some trimming. We've got the gas bottle, which is heavy, so the back end really needs to stand up to some weight. You have some flat bar that's welded down there. We have the child restraint from the original sponsored vehicle. And then we have the gas bottle, which is 75-25 argon CO2. I chose to keep the child receptacle, not for children, but for welding tools, which you place on here and then they fall through and it's really awkward and you can't really get at them. Leads to lots of swearing. You have to cut the seat out for the top of the bottle though. One other very key design feature that was a bit of an afterthought but has come in very handy is the front bottle stop, which is loose, so it slides about. So when I'm not paying attention, if it's too far out, that catches me right in the shin. It's so much fun. And on to the welder itself. As you can see, I pride myself with a clean workshop. It's clinical in here. It's like an operating theatre. My welding career started with a 90 amp Harbor Freight flux core little monster, which was pretty impossible to weld with. I did do a few sets of engine mounts and stuff like that, but it was horrible and hideous and I hated it pretty much. So I sold that and bought this MiG 175 from Eastwood, and I have to admit, it's been pretty good. I've not really had any issues. The wire feed isn't as smooth as it could be, which does affect weld. But as a whole, you know, it's $500. I can recommend the machine. You know, it's pretty good. You've either got that, or I think you step up to like $2,000 or something for a Miller or a Lincoln, which I would love to do, but I can't do right now. Yeah, that's it. It's all stock. I've not modified anything in any way. With this, you actually get an aluminum spool gun as well, which I've not had a go at yet, but I do have my bottle of gas there for aluminum, so that will be in the future. Okay, so please excuse the sound because we've got the fan on the welder going. In my tight situation, the actual feed cable itself is pretty tight, so there may be feed issues, wire feed issues, and you can see here what I was talking about before. I can kind of like pull the weld on half of it and then push it on the second half because I'm going to be coming up. Well, I suppose I could push it down and then kind of push it up, but in the real world, I'm probably just going to go for time. I'm probably just going to, like, you know, spot it. I'm going to, as you can see here, a lot of the time I will pulse weld. I'll do separate pulls of the trigger for each weld. I don't know why I do it. I like it, and I feel I have more control over the penetration and don't blow through as much. So, well, let's see if this works. So I probably stayed on it a little long there, but as with most of the parts of this truck, it's going to get sold to somebody, and I want it to be more solid than less. I'd rather err on the side of more weld and it's sticking better than sticking less. So there you can see it's vertical, so you get a little bit of, you know, run down. That's probably because there is a little bit of too much filler rod in there, but it is stuck and it ain't ever moving. So you can see there's a reaction on the back of the metal and the weld has completely gone through, and that is what I want to see, because then they know it ain't going anywhere. Okay, so this just gives you a bit of idea of the positions you're going to be welding in. That's the main issue. Now you can see on that back edge I have blown through the outer panel, but that's fine because I'm going to grind that down anyway, so that's fine. Don't worry about that. But it's upside down, welding just where you couldn't get the gun in, where you couldn't see, left-handed, using the thumb on the trigger. That's your main issue. The welding's easy, sitting at a table with clamps and holding two pieces of good thick metal together, fine, that's not a problem. It's stuff like this, and taking the time to cut out cardboard and get it really nice. About 80% of your time is going to be prep over the actual welding itself. You know, stuff's going to be in the way, you're going to be in a funny position, and that will, you know, that will make the welding hard. Now, as for actual welding technique, to be honest with you, a lot of the time, it all depends where you actually are on the car and where you can get the gun as to what you do and what technique you use to join the pieces of metal together. You have old metal, you have new metal, and you also have different thicknesses of metal. I've learned completely trial by error and on YouTube videos. You know, you kind of see pictures of good welds, read as much as you can, and then start welding and fiddling with dials on the front of the actual welder itself, and you just figure it out, you know, to make it look nice. Once it looks nice and it sounds like cooking bacon, you're pretty much there. You know, you'll blow through, you just find that fine balance to creating the pool, to having a weld sat on top, to blowing holes, and you just want that pool in the middle. So you will figure that out in time. You don't need to go to school. It's fairly easy to learn. But actual technique for each joint that I do, as I say, a lot of the time logistically it's where you are in the vehicle, where you can fit, where your gun can fit, how straight you can make your feed wire. If it has too many kinks, that's when I start to have the feed problem. As to different thicknesses of metal, if I'm welding two decent thicknesses of new clean metal together, I will tend to push, because it'll be pushing the heat forward and I'll be going into the heat, so it'll be easier to create that pool. If I've got iffy metal or some really thin stuff, I may do a pull technique, because I'm working away from the heat, so I've got a little bit more control. I know the metal's cold when I get to it, as opposed to it being hot when I get to it. The thinner metal, if it's already hot when you get to it and you leave it on too long, you're just going to blow a hole straight away. So yeah, as I say, if the metal's iffy at all, I'll tend to do a pull technique. If it's nice and meaty and thick and it's all clean, you can do a nice push, and that will work better for that. And yeah, I've done all sorts though. Left-handed welding, you've got to kind of become ambidextrous. I've welded coming directly at me because I can only get in that far, and you know, you get burns, you know. I pretend to like the, how can I say it? I tend to like the unpredictability and surprise of burns. Oh really, it's just really hot, and I'm not going to wear big gauntlets, I think they're called. So yeah, so at the end of the day I have tremendous farmer's tan on my arms, I have lots of pinprick holes, and also in my shoes as well. I like training shoes, not steel toe cap leather boots, so all the sparks drop onto my toes and I look like a meth addict when I walk around with flip-flops at the end of the day. So yeah, that's it really. You just got to give it a go. Just start doing it, don't be worried about it. I recommend this machine all day long. Have a go, welding's fun, and it can look really cool once you get the hang of it. So yeah, that's it. Have a go. Happy days. See you next time.